I wanted to start out by saying, tell us a little bit about how you think about the ICP and why it's that important.
I'm going to define this. It's how do your customers define success and outcomes from the solutions that they use? And how do they quantify and qualify the value that they get? And sometimes, even us, I mean, we've been around for 35 years. We kind of know what our customers and prospects need, but they're constant with changing, right? They're
Yes.
constantly pivoting and they're constantly a lot of regulations come up, a lot of different tailwinds and headwinds. So we focus on the who first, like with the persona based value creation. Actually, like even before we talk about ICP, we talk about long term value creation. We think about CX, we think about all of those things. Let's really get obsessed about the persona that we are actually solving for. And the day in the life, I always tell my team, I'm like, all right, we always help with the CFO or the CEO, right? At the end of the day, well, sometimes CHRO, the head of HR or the head of finance, or it gets to the CEO, depending on the size of the organization. And we almost have to be obsessed with the day in the life of these people. Like, how do they think about, with regards to our solution and the problems that we solve for them, what do they think? How do they wake up every morning thinking about the problems that we help them solve? Are they as critical as we think they are? Are they changing for whatever reason? The ranking of the problems and the challenges that we help them solve, is that ranking is number one going down to number five, and is number five going up to number
Right.
one,
Right.
right? And that ranking, that priority of, I call it the menu of problems, the menu of challenges, sometimes in our industry, healthcare and vertical, changes all the time. Like a new regulation comes up, a new compliance
Yeah.
issue, something that has to do with patient care. All of a sudden, the CFOs or CEOs are scrambling, right? Kind of like yesterday, the second floor was on fire. And so we had people just like attending to that. Today, second floor seems to be okay. Now the basement is flooding. And so we're just going to go to the basement. And I'm using that analogy because literally every day it changes. So I think
Yeah.
our salespeople, our marketing, as we are connecting with these people via email, social, events, what have you, we need to be thinking about what's keeping them up at night, and how those things are changing. So I think that's the start of it. In my opinion, we always start with where they are and how they're thinking about these industry headwinds. And I call it the crisis du jour. I talk to 10 or 20 CEOs and CFOs every week, and I ask that question. I'm like, all right, Steve, so what's the crisis du jour today?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, and then I talk to them the following week, and it's constantly changing, right? So like, I can't even keep
It
up.
says it all so quickly that it's always a crisis and it's always different and it's always changing. In
Yeah.
2 words, you just said that.
As CROs and as go-to-market teams, if we can get ourselves grounded on the common theme that emerges, the common three, four things that emerges from these conversations, and they have to be conversations. They cannot be on an email. They can definitely not be on a chat GPT. They have to be human to human conversations. When you're talking to the buyer, to the persona who writes the check. And I think what emerges from that, I pay attention to that emergence. And then you always come up with three common themes. And then your messaging, then your ICP just becomes clearer the moment that you clarify those three things that emerge. Next quarter, maybe one of them still true, the other two have changed, right? So that's how you keep up with the trend of your persona. And it always comes down to the persona who is the persona that you're trying to sell to. And I like you have to immerse yourself. I always tell my team, my customer success team, my sales team and marketing team, and this is the alignment conversation, is like, as long as we're all aligned between what the prospects are saying from the same industry, what the customers are saying from the same industry, and that collaboration between the customer success team, the CSMs and the account managers and the account executives align, now we're all talking the same language, right? We're all catering to the same three, four, five things: the crisis of the month, the crises of the quarter, crisis of the year, right? They start emerging, and that's how you differentiate your value from the rest.